Fernandez. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
Pleasure to be here in front of you today. So last time we had some questions about the EOC and the operations in the storm and how it relates to the CCTV center, the Crime Intelligence Center, that we have cameras that view the city. So during a storm, we do take down our cameras. And we do that so that we protect our assets, and then they're reinstalled after the storm. So we have a very limited view of the city during a storm mobilization type of function. Nonetheless, we rely on media, so we do have that connection. And we have triple redundancies in place to ensure that we have as much intelligence as possible in the Emergency Operations Center to provide real-time information to our decision makers in the Emergency Operations Center. Are there any other questions regarding the EOC and the CCTV functions?
I'm sorry, you said you have triple redundancies? What are those triple redundancies?
So what we do is we have satellite connections,
Okay.
we have direct cable connection, and then we have direct connection to radio. So everything that we do, we work under a theme of a triple redundancy. So before I move on to the next topic on the agenda, I'd like to ask, is there any questions regarding the EOC operations or Crime Intelligence Center, CCTV, anything like that you may have? No questions?
Yeah, CCTV. Where do we typically have those stations set up? Are they at the major intersections or?
So the CCTVs are cameras that we have set up throughout the city. We also have license plate readers. And these license plate readers read tags off of vehicles to provide real-time information to our officers on the field as well as our Crime Intelligence Center. In brief, what they do is they'll grab a tag within seconds of a vehicle. It connects it up to a hot list that's developed by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And these are all cars that are stolen and used in a crime. And so then that detection is immediately reflected on a system known as Vigilant. And that tells the officer within seconds that a car entered into the city at one of these key areas where we have a camera that was used in a crime or a stolen vehicle. We also have cameras that actually look like a TV camera. They're called CCTV. So they're closed-circuit cameras. We have them all along Miracle Mile, Geralda. We also have them on some border streets in the city. We have one on Old Cutler down by Matheson Hammock. We also have another one at Cocoa Plum Circle. So that allows us the opportunity to view real-time what's occurring. The operational value of those cameras are numerous, but one to name would be that if we're involved in pursuit of an individual or a vehicle, then we have real-time information being delivered to officers by this vantage point. We also have elevated points throughout the city where we view cameras from an elevated point, a high point in the city, down into particular areas. These cameras are quite powerful. They could probably go out 3 and 4 blocks out and pick off a tag off of a vehicle. So that's the information we have. You're more than welcome to come visit our Crime Intelligence Center so you can get a hands-on view. I think Jose, I think you've seen it, right? You haven't seen it? I did invite you, though, to come see it. But you're all invited to come view it so you can see it firsthand. And it's inside our Emergency Operations Center, so it provides great added value to any type of mobilization that we may undergo.
So I think the idea of CCTV as it relates to this commission, our committee came up in a commission meeting, if I recall reading through the minutes. So so I presume from that there's a belief that CCTV could be used to maybe assess storm damage. Has that ever been something that you guys have considered, or obviously if you're removing them prior to the storm, they're not going to help a whole lot, but has that been something you guys have discussed?
Yeah, the technology is quite expensive, so we have to weigh the cost versus the benefit, right? The risk versus reward. And the risk is not worth the reward of being able to view the damage. The risk of having these cameras out there with flying debris and hitting the camera is not worth it. So under the best practices model, we follow that and we take down the cameras. We pay a contractor to come out and we remove the cameras out of view.
Okay.
We reinstall them right away after the storm, after everything's cleared up. But also remember, even if it doesn't get hit by debris, if a tree has to be cut in that same area where these cameras are located and a branch falls while they're cutting it, or a piece of equipment hits it, some of these cameras are worth up to $30,000 and $40,000. So you have to be very, very careful with them. Nonetheless, we have other platforms that we can utilize to do damage assessments. We have a drone that we could deploy. We did deploy this last storm. That gives us an aerial view of what the damage looks like. But we also dispatch our officers immediately and our firefighters that give us immediate damage assessments throughout the city. So probably within an hour or two of the storm subsiding, we've got a really good handle on where to start and where are our difficult or most challenging areas to conduct the cleanup.
I just wanted to say something concerning what the director said. Peter Iglesias, Assistant City Manager, concerning the infrastructure. If we get a high category event, then more than likely those cameras will not be available. So I think one of the best things is to go ahead and protect our infrastructure so that it's available afterwards. What we had was a Category 1 storm, which really is a water and tree event. If we have a high category storm, let's say a major storm above Category 3 or more, then we have an issue of protecting infrastructure. It's going to be very, very difficult obtaining infrastructure, and not only infrastructure, but by that I mean in general, cameras, equipment, and so forth after a major storm. So I agree with the director. It's best to get our equipment, safe up our equipment, and have it there later. One of the things that we're doing in the public safety building is incorporating the garage and the vehicle area for the fire department to be a safe haven for. We can't operate a police department or fire department if you have no equipment, and those are the issues. If you leave something exposed in a high category storm, more than likely it may not be available afterwards.
Thank you. And where does, how do you prioritize restoring CCTV? After a storm, I'm sure there's other things that are more important. Where does this rank? Is it something you do pretty shortly after you've made, say, the first wave, run through the first push?
Yeah, so we've only had one experience with our cameras in a storm. It was a light storm, as Mr. Iglesias pointed out. Our best assessment is what we did last time, worked very well with our IT department, is to meet with the contractor and start from the point of less obstructions. So if we have areas that are still doing cleanup or trees that are still being cleaned up, then we leave those areas for last. We want to work in a safe environment for our contractors. We want to put our equipment in the path of least harm.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Question, when you take the cameras out, because there's a storm of certain level is coming, Category 3 or whatever, do you take them down yourselves, or do you have a contract with somebody? I think you mentioned you do have a contract with a team that will put them away for you. Is that the case?
Yes, that is correct. We have a contractor that installed our cameras. It's the same contractor that will take down the cameras in the event of an emergency.
And the contract has a provision for them to put it back, because it may very well be that you want them back in a hurry. Is that following his question? Is that has to take a number, or the contractor is available to do that for the city first?
Well, our experience during the last storm was that the contractor was immediately available and immediately reinstalled the cameras. We were down for, I'm going to say, approximately 3 weeks, and that allowed enough time for the streets to be cleaned up to a degree that allowed proper access and allowed them to get into some of the areas that had large debris in its way of the location where these cameras are located.
No, I got that, but I mean, contractually speaking, is he on the hook? In other words, is he supposed to be available to the city?
No, he is not. No, this is on a case-by-case basis. It is not part of our initial contract. This is on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I would say under a worst-case scenario, if they were not available, our IT staff, along with Public Works providing the equipment, those cameras would come down. So we do have a backup plan, but our IT personnel are well-skilled in that in the CCTV world. So If in the event that they were not available, the unlikely event, then we would back them up with our own personnel. But we would not leave our equipment out there.
Regarding EOC operations, can you give a kind of a high-level overview of what you do for that initial assessment? I know you talked about drones. Does the city have helicopters available if this was a higher category storm to do that assessment? At a high level, how do you approach that initial assessment?
We do have a damage assessment team that goes out. They report back immediately. The first level of a damage assessment is our firefighters. When the storm subsiding, they go outside and they do a 360-degree assessment around the fire stations. And first and foremost, to make sure that the area is safe for them to operate and to reinstate that fire station if we actually moved out of it because it's in a flood area, whatever it may be. They do that 360 assessment around that fire station. The second part of it is our rapid assessment teams that go out through our rescue recons. They report back to the Emergency Operations Center on damage as they come across it. We log these locations down so we can visualize where the highest amount of debris or difficulties are, and then we chart out a plan on how to clean it up. The cleanup part is not mine. The cleanup part is Mr. Iglesias.
Right. So how do these rapid assessment teams get around? Cars?
We do have, again, the fire trucks are quite sturdy enough to move around, but more so, we have an MRAP, which is a military high-capacity vehicle that we deploy immediately, and we're able to move debris out of the way and get over debris if needed. This is a very high-capacity military truck that is used for that purpose.
Any ATVs or anything like that? Would that be used?
No, we would not deploy ATVs simply because of the dangers that are associated with down power lines. So we feel that it's safer to go out with a high-capacity vehicle where our personnel is protected.
Is that one single vehicle, the high-capacity vehicle, that's one in the city?
That is one MRAP. It's a very large vehicle. Yes, only one. It's deployed throughout the city. And then again, the fire department does their own assessments around the fire station, and we start going out from those points. And the officers out in the field are deployed to their zones immediately. They report back damage assessments from the respective zones. So we have a number of redundant efforts in place to ensure that we get a good assessment of what our damage looks like.
Thank you.
The next question on that list, on the list that you've provided, is what type of training do the EOC personnel attend? Do they go to conferences? What types of education opportunities are provided to them? So in response to your question, one, we do tabletop exercises pre-storm. We just went through one 2 weeks ago. We actually also do a number of different assessment, training, and lessons learned meetings leading into that tabletop. Additionally, we attend with the Miami-Dade Department of Emergency Operations a number of different training sessions that leading into the storm season and throughout the storm season. In addition to that, our our Office of Emergency Management personnel attend the Governor's Conference, which they recently attended, to obtain first-hand information, as well as to provide a good networking opportunity for the city. Any questions on the training or conferences?
On the tabletop exercises, do you
Yes.
do any simulations, like a pretend storm, there's a Category 3, 12 hours away, where are we at, exercises such as that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We start off with a scenario-based training where it's leading into a storm watch and then a hurricane watch. So it leads throughout all the phases of a hurricane, and it gives them scenarios. We're also a divisional, so that means that we have satellite cities that report to us. So, for example, South Miami, West Miami, Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, Sweetwater, we will give them scenarios as well. It is, an example would be trees down. It could be a crime that's occurring or someone having a medical emergency. And then the respective section chiefs have to respond with their section to how they would address those particular issues. And it escalates throughout the scenario, and then it de-escalates at the end. Any other questions regarding the training and conferences?
None for me.
Okay, the next question you asked was in regards to, are there monthly meetings or briefings that are held at the Emergency Operations Center? And the answer is yes. There's a briefing held once a week, and then once a month with the section chiefs. And those go throughout, up to the hurricane season and throughout the storm season as well.
Who's involved in the weekly?
I'm involved in the weekly along with the Office of Emergency Management. And then once a month, it's with the section chiefs and their respective staff. And I believe that concludes all the questions that I had, but did I miss any? Okay, any other questions?
One final question.
Anything you want.
Hasn't been discussed there. Vulnerability in terms of what do you feel is the city's greatest vulnerability in a storm? Is it, well, let's hear from you.
So the biggest vulnerability in my assessment of the city of Coral Gables is not our response. Our personnel are geared up, they're properly equipped, they're properly trained, they've got passion and purpose in what they do, they have the experience to do it. Our greatest vulnerability is our infrastructure. We don't have a building that can withstand a Category 2 storm, and we don't have it. We're building one, but right now, the building that we're in, which houses the Emergency Operations Center, I am not confident that it could withstand a Category 2, and certainly a Category 3 would be a great concern to me. It leaks, it's got all kinds of structural issues, and that's the reason why we're building a brand new public safety building. So all the efforts are in place to correct those issues, but that's the greatest vulnerability. Second to that would be our fire stations. Because the infrastructure is weak at 2 of our fire stations, that could compromise our response. Again, to address those issues, we have construction in play right now, in the works, for Fire Station 2, and then Fire Station 1, which is the public safety building, as I mentioned, is also on the move. Fire Station 3 is probably our strongest fire station right now in the structure, in terms of the structure. It is brand new. I should say brand new, but it's been remodeled. And I believe it can withstand a significant storm.
Station 3 is the one down on Old
That is the
Cutler.
one off of Old Cutler, close to 57th Avenue.
Is that not in an evacuation zone, though?
It's in a flood area, but so we do evacuate that fire station depending on the anticipated storm surge.
So if it were a severe storm, then your most protected station is not going to be available.
Our most protected station is non-existent.
Right.
Yeah. But it will be. It will be. All the construction plans are in place to move that forward. So everything's it's on the move, so there's no need to be concerned about it. Other than that is a vulnerability that we have today. But in the event that would happen, again, we do have backup plans in place, triple redundancies to ensure that if we had to move our personnel, move our emergency operations center, we have a backup plan in place to ensure the continuity of our operations. That's a good question.
Thanks.
Any other questions for me in terms of the operations center, personnel, response?
None. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, I did see Director Santa Maria, but he just stepped out. So we'll skip to the next item that we had on the agenda, which is the underground utilities. Okay. The new public safety building, they asked for information on the building, the structure, and kind of where we are with the project, so they just wanted some updated information on. Okay.
We are now, as far as the public safety building, we are now we finished design development. We're now in construction documents. We're getting close to 50% on construction documents. We've designed the building as an essential facility, which means that it's designed for a 100-year return period, 100-year hurricane. Actually, the way the design procedure is being performed, we may exceed that. We have RWI has performed a wind tunnel study on the actual building, and we're looking at some enhancements where we can, at a reasonable cost, provide probably a higher return period. In other words, what the wind tunnel procedure does, it highlights instead of using a code wind derivative, we are using site specifics, which means that we know where the hot spots on this building are, and we are actually looking at using some of the residual strengths of the non-high wind load areas, reinforcing those hot spots and allowing us to have a higher overall performance on this building at minimal cost. So that's not a normal procedure in building design. I think it will be in the future. Makes sense from a design point of view. However, it's not a code application. It's a wind tunnel application for the building. So we're looking at really sophisticated design techniques on this building. I believe this is the first building where we have used, where in this area where the wind tunnel procedure has been used for an enhanced sustainability. We have, this building has much enhanced glazing criteria. For instance, the missile criteria is a 9-pound missile at 80 feet per second. If you recall, when Charlie Danger was actually doing this, I was involved with that. That missile will go through a normal block wall. So in this building, we have completely reinforced masonry, 100% solid. And so we are, because of the impact criteria and a number of these other criteria, we are using some of the inherent residual strengths to increase the sustainability of this building through the wind tunnel design process. We've got generators, two generators that can power each one can power the entire building. In addition to that, from a sustainability point of view, we have taken all the mechanical equipment that's on the roof and hardened it. So now it's not exposed. It's behind concrete and masonry walls and specially designed louvers that are designed for the additional wind and impact loads. So we can't have a building to be used in the summer with no AC. It's not feasible. So part of the hardening of this building has been also the equipment. We are designing the garage system to have certain louvers on the exterior to be able to protect the equipment used by fire and police. If police, and for instance, if police do not have vehicles, how can they respond? So we are designing the actual parking garage of the building for additional loads to stack everything in. In addition to that, the parking garages are full height. Instead of your typical commercial structure where you have almost 2 parking levels per office floor. In this case, we have a level connection to each floor. Allows us to provide larger vehicles. We can have van accessibility throughout the entire parking garage, and the additional loads, we are using loads, for instance, similar to when you're stacking vehicles. In a park, we're using, let's say, mechanical stacking on the building, so we can actually use the entire floors. Very important from a response perspective that we have equipment. The fire bay is also designed for this enhanced criteria, so all extremely large equipment will be in the fire bay, and the equipment that fits in about a 12-foot height, which is most of it, can be securely stored within the 3 levels of parking. So from a sustainability point of view, from a storm point of view, we are looking at, in addition to that, the parking garage that is not part of this project, but will be built adjacent to the building, will provide the parking for civilian vehicles during an EOC activation. And in addition to that, we will have fire doors that actually connect the actual parking garage to the police and fire station parking. Those doors will be normally closed. Those doors will only be open during either an emergency, that there's a vehicle trapped in one of the ramps, or activation of the EOC. So we have looked at the sustainability issue considerably. I think it'll be a very high-end building with much enhanced sustainability. Actually, some of the glazing that we've been looking at, we have to go to a one-time approval because most of the glazing is done for normal buildings. Use the same impact and impact criteria as a house. Doesn't make sense to have an essential facility with that. So the code enhances that to that additional missile level, and we are actually looking at some glazing products that we are planning on getting a one-time approval for. There's not enough market for them to how many of these type of buildings are being done? If you have a regular office building, you're using normal impact criteria for a residence, right? So we are looking at an enhanced product that's even higher level than the minimum level that the code provides for essential facilities, and which works very, very well with our looking at this building from a wind tunnel point of view and having enhanced performance at minimal cost. So we've tried to maximize and get the biggest bang for our investment dollar as far as this building is concerned. So I think as a minimum, we'll have this building to be a 100-year hurricane. By the time we are finished, actually what I'm going to do is once we have our building designed and we know what the allowable loads are on this building, I'm going to have RWI look at the building and reestablish that criteria, whether we are a 150-year storm, 160-year storm. It's part of their contract to do. It's good. It's in addition to that, it's also good from an insurance perspective, although we're self-insured. The fact that we have a building of enhanced capacity, I think it's something important for us.
All right. What is the anticipated completion date of that building? As I recall, it was a couple years out?
August of 2020. August of 2020. We are currently probably about 40% construction documents right now. We'd like to start construction by November, December of this year. We have a 10-month design period, 20-month construction period, and 2 months moving in period for the director to move from our current facility on 2801 Salcedo to our other Salcedo facility, which is north of that.
What will happen to the existing facility?
That was in a land exchange with a local developer, and that will revert back to the developer. There was a piece of property just north and adjacent to the building that we were able to acquire. Our existing piece of property was a very sharp L, and this allowed us to kind of square off the building quite a bit, and it probably saved a good 2 or 3% from construction costs, and in addition provided us with a much more efficient building and a lower building. So the construction costs probably, I would say, 3 to 4%, somewhere in that neighborhood as far as savings from acquiring that piece of property. And that will, again, be the civilian parking facility that will be adjacent to this building. This building will not be for civilian parking. This is the one that I was mentioning that we would be using for activation of the EOC for the civilian coming in during that activation.
You had mentioned essential facilities. That sounded like a defined term. Is that something that's...
It's defined in the building code.
In the building code. So do we have other essential facilities designated in Coral Gables? This will be the first one?
This will be the first one that complies with the code as an essential facility. Our best building right now is 72nd Avenue. However, there's some issues. It's right next to a major canal system, so it's vulnerable from a flooding perspective.
The next thing on the agenda was the underground utilities. Specifically, you'd asked questions about a memo that was provided to staff in September. So that information was provided to you along with a link to the actual commission meeting where that information was discussed. So we have our assistant city attorney here if you would like to, I guess, ask any questions about the memo. And I'm not sure if you do. If not, then we can go past this particular topic, but you did have underground utilities on the agenda. Okay.
No, we're under legal issue, we have some litigation coming up, so I'm not sure how much I can say, but we certainly, undergrounding, I think we had a commission meeting where we had a presentation, and it's in excess to $250 million of the city were to do it alone, so undergrounding costs are quite large, and however, I don't know how much can I say here.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Walker provided you all with the memo that was provided from outside counsel, as well as the meeting minutes and the video where that was discussed in the commission. So beyond that, you know, we've sort of held off on further discussion.
May I discuss some of my issues when I was in the city of Miami and was...
That's not related to our lawsuit?
So when I was in the city of Miami, I was the expert witness for the city attorney in the FPNL case. And one of the issues that we had was the hardening of their infrastructure and the fact that they're not under the building code. People think they're under the building code. They're not even under the building code as far as electrical is concerned. The utility companies are under a National Electrical Safety Code, so they're not under National Electrical Code or our building code. So since they've established their own code, and the Public Service Commission has allowed them to use that code, their hardening procedures are not typical that we would do from a structural engineering perspective. Their safety factors are not typical we would use in a normal structural engineering perspective. When I testified, there was issues of I look at the design standards, and if you look at them from 100 feet away, you say that it looks okay. So why are we having damage that's not? If I have a certain storm, I would expect that damage to be commensurate with the intensity of that storm. And it's because the National Electrical Safety Code has their own safety factors, their own issues. For instance, they design to a certain level, but without safety factors, or with safety factors of 1. So looking at their infrastructure hardening, it becomes interesting as to where they're really at. What I suggested to them is there's a lot of companies right now. There's the wind tunnel issue is a huge issue. We can look at, but that's not where they're at right now. It's not where they have to be, because the Public Service Commission has allowed the utilities on a nationwide basis, and so it's not only in Florida; it's nationwide. It's National Electrical Safety Code. I know we have an engineer, Mr. Abreu. When have you used safety factors of 0 or 1.0? There is no safety factor. So if I'm designing to the same wind speed with a safety factor 1.6, and you're designing to the same wind speed with a safety factor 1.0, if you look at the wind speed, it looks good, but when you get down into the numbers, it's not the same. And so that's why we were having damage not proportionate to the design standards. But that's what utilities can do that we cannot do. Mm-hmm. They can do things that we are not allowed to do. So hardening, there's the cost differential between hardening and a exposed structure versus underground structure becomes more if your hardening design is not as rigorous, right? So there's a number of issues here, and we're under. Mm-hmm. But that was strictly not our litigation. That was strictly the Miami the issues I was involved with when I worked at in a similar position in the city of Miami. It's something that has to be resolved, and but the cost is for a city to undertake a $250 to $300 million endeavor is not, of this size, is very difficult.
So you all received the sort of cost analysis that we received from our outside counsel. I don't believe there's been further discussion since then. I think the commission asked staff to reach out to Golden Beach, I believe was the city that had undergrounded it.
We had one of the principals from Stantec provide a presentation, if you recall, and they were involved in some of the undergrounding at different municipalities, so they had experience in cost and some of the issues involved, and the estimates were $250 to $300 million. So it's quite a large investment to do so. We'd have to provide it in the right of way. I mean, you can imagine going through easements in the back. That'd be very difficult. So it's doable, but expensive.
While I'm up here, I'll give you a quick update on our FPL litigation. We had our first mediation session, which was very productive, and talks are continuing. So we're in our mediation period. I don't believe there's another time set for us to go back before the judge. So we had our first session, and
I'm sorry, you said there is or is
there is not at this point. We're still in the mediation time.
Is there any estimate at all that you can put to when this will be concluded?
I don't believe so.
But you said that the first mediation was successful?
Productive.
Oh, productive,
I would say.
okay.
Productive.
That's better than non-productive, I guess.
Yes.
On the city of Golden Beach, they undergrounded their utilities. Do we know how they fared in Irma?
They did well. They lost power because areas outside of them that were feeding them lost power.
So they were being fed overhead into an underground
So
area.
they lost power. However, once that was fixed, they gained power right away.
Okay.
So there's infrastructure issues outside the city also. If you're being fed through a transmission line that's aerial, and that transmission line is like what happened in Homestead, where we had issues, then, however, they did very well once power was restored. Once they were able to get power, they did quite well.
Now, in the estimate, the 250 to 300 million estimate, that's from outside counsel. That includes.
I'm not going. I'm not touching anything the city attorney is doing. That's from the presentation from one of the principals in Stantec that was done for the city commission.
Okay. I'm just wondering if.
So I'm not dealing anything with the legal issues at all here.
No, I understand. So there are other options to partially underground utilities. For instance, undergrounding services that connect from the pole to the residences. That may offset some of the restoration times if it was a severe storm. Has there been any consideration to partially undergrounding and not necessarily?
I don't know really how
undergrounding?
much just the service underground. I had service underground in my house, and I ended up with getting service in the last day. So I'm not sure how effective that's going to be if your infrastructure is lost. I'm not sure that's any owner can do that on their own. It's private property, so you're actually trenching through your own property. So I think it deals with pole lines, transformers, and things. I had a very unique issue that I documented. That was I can't mention it right now, but that was very interesting. But I don't think the service is going to be as important as other issues.
Yeah, it's the laterals, I think, is
because if
the most effective.
Poles, replacement of poles, replacement of transformers, especially poles. You have if you have a 20-year life, do you replace them at 18 years, or do you replace them at 22 when they fail? So there's a number of issues like that. But if you have a major storm, major storms are categorized as above category 3, then you start getting into other issues. You start getting into winds enough to cause missile damage, winds that really then you've got the gusts within those winds and other issues that really that infrastructure from my dealings with Miami is not designed for. So I think we've got bigger issues. I'm not sure how that's going to. Most of the time, the issues were not the actual drops, but the actual infrastructure. However, there's no question. I think that going underground is just tidier, looks better, you don't have lines coming across your property. It's just a better way of doing it, but that can be done at any time by the property owners.
Okay.
That would be, certainly undergrounding would be part of that.
Any other questions with regards to that topic?
Nope.
Okay. The next topic was
Thank you.
other municipality emergency contracts. In your packets that I sent, I provided you with a summary of what those contracts look like for the other municipalities. So would you like to go through each one of them, or do you have any questions about the information that was sent?
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I don't.
Just a comment,
Okay.
that, you know, there's a couple of different methods where this can happen. The cities can get their bids up front for their costs up front, or they can pre-qualify and get the costs after a storm, and there's pros and cons to both.
Correct.
One of the challenges that occurred with some recent storms was that cities who had pre-qualified haulers reached out for quotes with very little lead time, and as a result, there were very few responses when it came time to give pricing, and pricing ended up higher than anyone expected, and that had sort of a chain reaction effect.
Absolutely.
In the case of Coral Gables, I believe, are you getting your prices up front?
Yes, we have a contract in
Okay,
place,
so
yes.
not so much of an issue as far as that goes. The flip side of that, though, was where particularly older contracts where pricing was in place, some of the contractors had difficulty meeting those prices, and I know the city did very well in that
Yes, we did.
by making it more efficient for those contractors to work within the price parameter. So that was a great move. But yeah, it's interesting how the actions of one municipality or jurisdiction can have a sweeping effect on all the others, and that's exactly what we saw in Irma.
Right.
So, it's
So the
interesting.
city's approach is definitely to have the contracts in place pre-storm. So what we're doing is awarding term contracts for over a long period of time to establish a relationship with the providers. So our approach specifically with the monitoring services that we've awarded to one particular contractor. On the actual debris removal services, we are awarding 3 particular contractors. So we have continuity and what we call around here triple redundancy as far as making sure that we have providers in place. But we're taking that approach as far as our practice as far as the city is concerned, and not doing the pre-qualification or having a pool of people rather than establishing a long-term relationship.
Sure. And is that process over yet?
It is for the actual monitoring services. We've already awarded the contract that's in place. That's with Tetra Tech.
Right.
And the debris removal services will be on the commission June the 12th for us to do the award for the 3 contractors that we're recommending for that particular project.
Okay.
Yes,
When does that contract go into effect, if they approve it?
immediately. Well, right now, we have extended the existing contract on a
Got it.
month-to-month basis until we complete the award for the new contract. So we do have, continuity of service in place. So we have a provider, which was the current provider for the services that we had in place. So we've just extended that contract until we go through the process that we're going to have awarded on June the 12th.
I don't know if you're able to comment on this, but was the pricing under the new contract higher or lower generally than under the old one?
Actually, there was a wide range because for the new contract, we actually had 8 proposers. And so their pricing ranged from a little over 8 up to almost 13. So there was a range of pricing for the debris removal, which is the bulk of the services. So to say that I guess it was competitive and in range, but because when we award it, we're going to then go through the negotiation process, I can't say what the final price is actually going to be on whether or not that's in line with where the competition is with the market right now.
Okay. And what is the term of that contract, the length of it?
It's 3 years with 2 two-year renewals, so it's going to be a total of 7 years.
Okay. And there's a CPI adjustment on the pricing?
Absolutely, yes. To make sure that we're competitive so that the pricing isn't stale and we don't have a problem with them maintaining, their subcontractors and their providers to actually provide the service to us. So
Sure.
that was a protection that we put in place. So any other questions on the contracts? If not, the next topic was reimbursement efforts for the city. If any of you have ever worked with a storm, you know that's a long process and ongoing for quite some time. So finance is very involved with that process. So initially, they were thinking that we would be submitting the information to FEMA at the probably the end of July, and I believe they're still on track with that. So they're still in the process of gathering all the paperwork and the information so that we can submit the information properly for reimbursement. And then after that fact, it's going to take anywhere from approximately 4 to 6 months before FEMA will give you a review and for you to even determine whether or not that you might be reimbursed for the fees. So again, that's an ongoing process. They're constantly gathering the paperwork, the information, and right now everything is going smoothly as far as finance is concerned. But again, it's a long process, and we are closer to the end than we were when we started. So.
However, the fact that we maintained our contract prices, I think will make that a speedy recovery.
Yeah, exactly. We shouldn't have any problems with reimbursement. We're not expecting any problems, but you don't know about FEMA. So the next topic.
I'm sorry, Celeste, have we had reimbursement problems in prior storms?
Not that I'm aware of, so I don't know if any of us were here.
I'm not aware of that, but in this storm is going to be interesting because we had such a price fluctuation and contracts done after the fact that it's going to be interesting what the reimbursement is going to be for some of the other municipalities. As far as we're concerned, we've maintained all our contracts in our pre-storm costs. So I think that hopefully that will work itself through FEMA, and I'm hoping that we will be one of the first cities reimbursed because of that. Because I don't think I think we've got all our ducks in a row.
Okay. Any other questions with regard to reimbursement? Okay. The next topic was the use of the Miami-Dade County disposal facility. So I'm not sure, Peter, who was going to speak on that. If that was going to be Mr. Santamaria.
Well, I can tell you that I worked. I think to the. I think the county would probably consider me a pest at that time, but we have a situation that we don't have land. So we have a different situation than Dade County, let's say, or City of Miami, that can use. They have extensive land areas where you can dump, and then come back and provide the grinding operations. So for us. I'm not sure, it's something that I'm working with the county on, because I think we need to have more of a little redundancy as far as the waste operations. I think we came very close to having to stop operations because when you have a finite area to use, how much can you put in? There has to be a logistics issue of in and out. And so I'm not sure if the county, we had actually 20 acres that we were trying to work through the Durham process. It's extremely lengthy. I remember during Andrew, the mayor at that point created an emergency as far as disposal. And then, for a short period of time. And so we hadn't had a storm for quite some time, so there was a tremendous amount of vegetation. And that didn't happen this time. So I think the county needs to look at, and I've been in contact with them. I think they need to look at their emergency procedures. If we've ever had a major storm here, and we have 0 disposal sites, except possibly the Pompano site as far as mulch is concerned. The county actually was not opening their sites to mulch initially. So as we were mulching, what do we do with it? We had the 72nd Avenue site that we're trying to expand now, create an additional acre by some we have a piece of property that is contaminated. We're trying to reclaim and have an additional acre there, but just an acre. We were able to use a small piece of property in Country Club Prado. The question is, do we use Country Club Prado? I mean, that's if you're a neighbor there, it doesn't go over very well. We have a Country Club Prado property, and we have Lee Lincoln, which belongs to the University of Miami. And so our lack of storage facilities creates a huge issue for us. So I think having multiple disposal sites, I think is key. We had to go to the Waste Management Pompano site with all the mulch. So what we were doing is getting the debris, mulching it. It's about a 3.5 to 4 to 1 ratio of mulch to bulk debris, which means that if we have 350 yards coming in, we can use 100-yard truck going out. And so we were able to work that out logistically, but it was too close for comfort. So I do think that the county needs to look at their operations. Had this been a higher level hurricane, I'm not sure where we would be right now. As far as not having a county facility nearby that we could use. So I am actually trying to work with the county on that. I would hope that they look at their procedures, look at their emergency procedures, and this is not, when a hurricane happens, it's not the norm. We need to react in a certain way and then go back to the norm, right? And so if for instance, if Durham is going to look at everything in a 2-year term, then that doesn't work for us, right? And so certainly we want to be environmentally conscious, and we don't want to do certainly anything, but we also have to look at the realistic side. If we had what happened during Hurricane Andrew here, where we had trash, we had debris all over the streets for weeks and months. Can you imagine a lightning strike? I mean, we were extremely fortunate. I can tell you that I lived near the Lee Lincoln site, and that place we had buzzards flying around. And then that site created a situation where all the neighborhoods from outside were actually dumping there. So those are the issues that I think that really hurt our city in the sense that we don't have these isolated large disposal sites that we can use in the interim while we actually mulch and get the debris to the final destination. The positive side that we were learning from our issues in Andrew, we were very diligent in bringing garbage pickup very, very quickly, which did not happen during Hurricane Andrew. You can't mix debris, and you can't mix garbage and actually our mulch in our 72nd Avenue site looked like it was ready for a lawn in all our sites, and we were very diligent in that, and I think it worked out very well. The residents helped tremendously. I think they were excellent, and we were able to keep debris from garbage and from trash. Right. So one thing is tree debris, and one thing is throwing furniture and garbage. We initiated garbage pickup quickly. You can store recyclables in your garage. You can't store garbage in your garage for 2 weeks. So I think that was very successful. And and also the garbage pickup goes to the landfill. So that's directly goes to the landfill, and the county was accepting it. Problem was actually debris, and that's something that I hope that we get a better response from the county. We have an event this year.
I think that's a very important issue. I mean, for the proper recovery, to be able to separate garbage from debris. And I'm glad that the citizens got it. But, we were speaking before, you and I, on the issue of communications and outreach. I believe that's an item that needs to be emphasized. Because I tell you, I'm in the business, as you know, and yet I made a mistake during Irma. I put garbage with debris, and it just doesn't work. Logistically, it doesn't. And so therefore, to inform the citizens up front, I think it's important.
To emphasize the
To
importance.
emphasize,
Okay.
hey, I don't know which is the appropriate time. You're not going to call them in the middle of the storm and say, by the way, your debris needs to be, you need to be sensitive about the situation. But the fact of the matter is that it makes a heck of a difference in the recovery aspect. And there's got to be something official that says, please, you need to separate these two.
And we're working on that to get that out. However, it was very, very effective. I think the residents, the word must have gotten out, because we worked through all the media, channels that the city has, and for the most part, I think the residents did an excellent job. Also, one key issue is we got on garbage quickly, because that is the key. That's the key.
Right.
And I knew that was the key because of what happened from prior experience in Hurricane Andrew. And the fact that you can store cardboard in your garage, you can't store trash, you can't store garbage in your garage, it starts to smell, it starts to decompose, and it's not possible. So that was a key issue. And then we started trash as quickly as possible after that to get some construction debris, furniture, et cetera, not mix that with the actual debris. That helped us somewhat also because that goes directly to the landfill. Landfill at that time, no matter what the county's saying now, we spoke to them directly, we're not accepting mulch. And so we had, and it's also a very high cost to use a landfill for clean mulch. But it wasn't a cost issue, it was a non-acceptance issue. And so the position has changed a little bit, but I can tell you that was their position at that time. Because we were working with the waste management on the Pompano site to get that as quickly as possible from our logistics issue. We had 3 sites. We were able to quickly, we leased the site in 2 days. Site next to 72nd Avenue that gave us an additional 2 acres. That was a lifesaver. And we found the site on Friday. By Sunday, the site was operational. By Sunday, and we had a chipper and the site operational by Sunday. That was a lifesaver. We had 2 additional acres, and my concern was logistics. Being able to store as much and grind as much, compress as much, and allow the time needed to finally get that operational issue of what's the final destination of the mulch and of the debris. So I was sweating bullets at that time. I can tell you because you get to a point that the box just holds so much, right? It worked out. And from the fact that we weren't paying as much as everybody else, we just kind of privatized it. Let's go private sector style. It's what you make at the end of the day, not what you make in one load. And we were able to do that. And really, at the end of the day, if you make more money at $10 than you do at 14, it's $10. And so we were getting these trucks out in probably 1/8 the time, or 1/10 the time that some of the county facilities were getting the trucks out. So we had some people leave and actually come back and saying, what do I make at the end of the day? Right? I make more in one load, but if I can only do 2 and I can do 5 here or 6, then that changes the economics of the issue.
It reminds me, that analogy, I mean, my days at the airport, it's not how many gates you have, how many times you can turn them.
Peter, did I hear you say that the county claimed that they never said they would not take mulch after the Irma?
The county facility was not taking mulch. We had John Osgood on that all the time.
Okay.
Because we had, we were concerned. I was concerned from the very beginning.
Right.
That I have finite space and I got to get it out.
But did they say afterwards that they never prohibited mulch in the facilities?
There was
implied.
I think there was implied. I mean,
Okay.
it was. I think everybody towards the end was kind of covering themselves a little bit between you and I, but we had, as you know, we were dealing with you, with your company directly on that, and we were very worried about not having a final disposal site.
Yeah, I heard different stories on that because some cities tried and apparently brought some of the mulch into the county, and I don't know if the county shut them down or what happened there, but there were...
The county initially said no, then a week later they said yes, then they said no, and so it was not, and then when your Pompano facility was finally open, we just decided to go to use our 100-yard trucks, get that 3-to-1 ratio working, get those 100-yard trucks up to Pompano, and get that done. So we got to a point that we weren't waiting for the county at that point.
Right. And I know the city acted very quickly on that because I know that was all done on a Saturday or a Sunday over the weekend, including signing of documents from all the city officials, which I told our people is never going to happen, and it happened. So, It's a,
We did a lot of things over the weekend. And, you know, if you have a situation like that, you have to work in crisis mode. And we handled everything in crisis mode. There was nothing. We also preempted a lot of issues. Being in construction for a number of years, is basically a construction hauling project, right? And so we preempted a lot of the issues, had some prior signatures, so there was a lot of things happening behind the sidelines to make this happen. But we got your contract done in 2 days. We got land lease in 2 days, very unusual for government work, but it can happen.
Sure.
So our idea was go private sector style. I've been in private sector for 25 years. We need to do something because we are not competitive. And so how can we make ourselves competitive?
It worked.
And as Mr. Bruce said, it's not how many gates you have, it's how efficiently you use the gates, right? How much money you make at the end of the day. And that's what we were working on. And we had people leave and people come back.
So how did these communications work? How did you know that the county wasn't accepting mulch? Do you send
We
a
were in
driver?
contact,
and-
we had our assistant director for sanitation in contact with the county, with waste management. This was done continuously, multiple times a day.
And we know that that contact was at the appropriate level?
Yes, and I contacted the county at the deputy mayoral level myself.
So how do we prevent that from happening again? Can you enter into a contract with the county, or is it
I think
a
the
matter of us
county has
pushing to
been,
change their
my understanding
procedures?
is that the county has been looking at some of their issues and how they handle, you can't have a event like this and have your normal procedures in place. You cannot do that. And I think the county hopefully realized that, and I am hoping that if we have, and they've been working on that, it's my understanding. But you can't have the status quo when the house is burning, right? And it's not, you don't panic, but you act appropriately, and you act correctly. So you're not in panic mode. You can never be, if you're in panic mode, you are lost. However, it doesn't mean that the house is burning and you decide to call a fire department 2 days later, right? And so I think that hopefully, I'm hoping for better management from the county. We have a meeting coming up with them, and because we brought some of these issues up, and hopefully we can have a. I don't want to criticize the county. I'm not here to criticize the county. We have to work together on this, but I do think that we need to have our crisis control a little better.
So I think you're hitting on exactly where I was going with this. How do we prevent this from happening again? It sounds like the way you're going to do that is to meet with the county directly and try to get their procedure clarified now.
County is very procedural. It's a much larger organization, so I'm hoping that but the mayor does have the ability to create a lot of these issues on an interim basis. So as we're getting with the county now, I am hoping that those measures will be a little better implemented if we do have another emergency like this.
So on the disposal side, the county apparently did not want to take a lot of mulch after Irma. Have they not
They
made
initially want to take
any? And
Any.
do they have a position? Have they stated a position yet on whether they would take mulch in a future disaster, or is that part of your upcoming meeting?
It's part of our upcoming
Okay,
meetings.
that's a key
It's a
point
huge
there.
issue.
Yeah,
Yes.
huge issue, because that's
Especially for us that we don't have
yeah.
we don't have the site similar to what the city of Miami has, in the causeway, where they can just dump and come back and mulch. That would have made our operations much more simpler, because it's your logistics issues come way down, right? If I can dump there for 2 months and not have to worry about it, that would have been much easier than worrying about filling up three small sites.
Is there not capacity at that site, or is Miami unwilling to allow another city to use it?
No, I don't. It's too far for us, and
distance, yeah.
it's for Miami only.
Yeah, okay.
And they had some other issues. They mixed debris, and we don't want to really. It's also in the causeway, so it's quite far for us, right? And then what debris is whose debris, and you've got all kinds of issues there.
Sure.
And especially they had issues of mixing, which we didn't have. So who does that belong to? So you create a lot of issues there unless you can physically prevent that. Plus, it was never offered, and I think they did not want to, we have to resolve our own problem, right?
So at what point would you have considered opening up, say, the golf course, the Granada Golf Course?
If the logistics did not pan out, as far as we had the
So have
Granada
we
Golf
not gotten the lease on the 2 acres at that?
lease on 2 acres, we did that. We found the property on Saturday. We had the contract done by Sunday. And that helped out quite a bit. It was also good, it was next to 72nd Avenue, so it was easy to control. It was 2 blocks from our 72nd Avenue facility. So we found the property on Friday. By Sunday, we had a chipper and fully operational site. Okay? And so that was a lifesaver for us at that time, because it provided two additional acres, and it was all an industrial site. So we have if you go to a residential site, you have issues even our 72nd Avenue site. When you're around residential, you have operational issues, right? The Lincoln site, for instance, is next to a school. Do we want to have hundreds of trucks that are driving through when you've got pickup and when they're dropping kids off, you got to drop off and pick up in school and all kinds of kids. Country Club Prado and the golf course is surrounded by residential. Can we chip to 12 at night? Our 72nd Avenue site is subject to work stoppage because when we were building that site, we had issues with the residential property on the west side across the canal. So we had operational issues that we had time constraints. So the 2 acre site was surrounded by all industrial. So we had carte blanche in that, and we have a contract with them right now as part of our operational site in case we need it. So if that site is not sold and it's maintained by that property owner, of course they have the right to sell. That site right now is we have an agreement to be able to use it in the next 3 years.
So the North Country Club Prado site sounded like it was very successful. Would you consider not opening Country Club Prado at Coral Way in both sides of that?
The one is successful because we were able to keep everything away from the residents, and we didn't do chipping at certain hours, and it worked out logistically for the north part of the city. So that site was a smaller site, but we had enough trucks to actually work the logistics there for the north side of the city. So we were able to get we were able to use that site very effectively, and because of our hours of operation and the fact that we isolated it in the front, actually it worked out very well. We had 0 complaints. Actually, people were telling us how would walk by some of those streets, and I was told how well it was working out. There's a difference between that site and having something in front of your house, right?
Right. So, but is there a difference between that site and Coral Way and Country Club Prado? If you were
Coral
to put
Way,
the same
that
measures
would
in?
be our second operational site, but it's not quite as isolated because we have fountains, we have parks along the 8th Street site that we don't have on that site. So we were able to completely isolate that, and with reduced working hours, and we actually we were actually chipping towards the right off of 8th Street. So we had the logistics of trucks coming off of 8th Street, coming back around. You made a right from 8th, went back, dumped, went back around, made another right on 8th Street, and went back into that northwest part of the city. So operationally, it worked very well. So we were using that more as a zone site than an overall site. We did not really have all, and we had enough trucks to do that operationally. We didn't have enough trucks; it'd be a different ballgame. But we were able to to have people working on that northwest area, and that was basically a zoned site for that northwest area.
If I'm not mistaken, in Hurricane Andrew, Matheson Hammock was used as a mulching station. Do you know? Do you have any information on
That's county property, that's not our property.
county property? So, and I think, just to continue that, so you've got Matheson Hammock down near the marina, but you have Matheson Hammock on, I guess it'd be the west side of Old Cutler. That's a pretty massive site. Is that not an area that we could work with the county to secure as a location to do the mulching?
Matheson Hammock is a county site,
Yep.
and I think if, when you have this kind of event, it's really every man for himself type of thing, and so we really have to resolve our own issue here. I don't really want to rely on the county or any other city for our operational needs, because it may not be there. And so I think from our operational needs, I think we need to be self-reliant.
Okay.
We also have to be careful, some of those areas are ecologically very sensitive, so we need to be very careful there.
And if you don't mind me asking you the same question, what do you perceive as our greatest vulnerability in the next storm?
Our greatest issue is that I think that we have very, very limited space without the use of areas adjacent to residential areas, which provide problems. Again, the Lee Lincoln site not only is it residential, but West Lab School's there. So do we want hundreds of trucks coming through as kids are dropped off and picked up? And also, your chipping debris flies off, and you have a school. So you could have issues there. So operationally, I think we can isolate the chipping operations enough by bringing them to actually ponds. And actually, we had an agreement with that was one of the sites that we were going to use. I mean, if we had no choice, that was one of the sites that we were going to use. We were going to isolate the chipping operations on the south west side, which created a large buffer for that school. You still have trucking. I mean, you just can't get away with it. So, doable site, not ideal. The golf course, we're tearing up our golf course. In addition to that, we've got residential all around. So once you're in a residential area, you have operational restrictions. Right? Country Club Prado, the same thing. So we don't have really an isolated area that we can say that we can use to help us logistically in the final disposal.
And what do you propose is our best way to minimize that risk of not having a site? Obviously, trying to enter into a long-term relationship with the people that own this 2-acre site, that's beneficial. But if it's a larger storm and we have more debris to generate,
this storm really generated debris outside of its size. I mean, we hadn't had a storm for such a long time.
Yeah.
The initial estimates were 170,000 cubic yards. Ended up being 370,000 cubic yards. So it generated debris much larger than the initial estimates. And I think it's because we hadn't had a storm for a very long time. So I think we had a pretty good sized event as far as debris removal. We had 370,000 cubic yards almost, and that was our estimates were off. I'm not in the tree estimating expert, but I did talk to a number of the people, and everybody, the consensus was 170, and it ended up being 370. So we won't make that mistake again. But I wasn't worried about it. We had to pick it up. So our operation is we need to make this happen. So whether it was 170, 370, or 470, we had to make this work. And so I wasn't worried about the quantity. I was worried about the operations. We have our operations in here, we can make it work. So if we do the same thing we did this time, and we have the same response, that and the same, and then I think we'll do well. But final disposal is a key issue for us because of our constraint sites. We need to get final disposal sites, it would be nicer than having to drive to Pompano. Right? We get more throughput not having to drive to Pompano. Or using Pompano as a secondary disposal, final disposal site.
Thank you.
Well, the last topic that we had on the agenda was a discussion of collaborative efforts with other municipalities. Specifically, you had asked about the League of Cities. Director Santa Maria was going to give an update on that, but I would ask him to provide something in writing to you.
I'll provide an update.
Okay. Oh, our resident expert on everything.
I have been working on something else.
Okay. Well, he can give a written response, yeah, we didn't.
He's been in contact with Richard Cooper in the League of Cities, and there's a best practices conference coming up, and we're going to share one of those presentations and deal with other cities to look at their emergency response and debris removal, and look at their best practices and learn as much as we can from that. So we'll have a delegation at that conference, and not only as and also presenting. I think we certainly, not only did we learn a lot, I think we did a lot of things unusual in the storm, and so we will not only be participants, but we will be also presenting there. So we will be working with the League of Cities and getting feedback from all the municipalities and hopefully improving our plan.
When you attend something like that, do you guys put together a report in coming back of the things that you found most applicable to the city? And if so, is that a report that you can share with this committee?
Absolutely. We'd be happy to share that report with the committee, of course.
When is that meeting?
I don't recall. It's coming up. I don't recall. I'm a member of League of Cities, but I don't recall what that email came in.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the past, that was always in October, the best practices. I'm assuming it's probably going to be the same. I don't know that for a fact, but it's historically always October.
I think last year it was around October. Mr. Neal, you're absolutely correct.
Do they publish minutes from that meeting? Do you know?
There are presentations from that which are available.
Okay. So that might be interesting to at least get a link to wherever those are. If they did an assessment post-Irma, there might be some information there that we could.
Okay.
And we'll be happy to provide the committee with our assessments and our notes on that meeting.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, I will research into whether or not they have a
Okay.
link or have the information available. And if they do, then I'll send it to the committee like I do the normal notes for anything.
Those meetings are normally a presentation, and so we can get, certainly if there's any presentation that we feel is useful, I'm sure we can get copies of that.
A separate topic, but our other local municipalities, City of West Miami, South Miami, have you had any discussions with your colleagues at those cities about the challenges they had? And I'm thinking specifically about location of these chipping sites. And is there any opportunity for us to collaborate with them in case they have additional capacity and do something with them jointly?
I think our Public Works Director has been looking at that. However, a lot of these cities have relied on Dade County to do their disposal, and so and they don't have anywhere near as much debris as we do. We are what does Brooke say? We're a tree city or something, or I mean we get a tree city commendation every year. We're Tree City USA. I don't quote me on that, but our Public Service Director, Assistant Director knows about that. So our canopy requirements are huge.
That might be beneficial for us, though, right? So if they don't have as much debris and we do, and they might have more land available than we do, would it not be beneficial?
I believe that during the storm, some of the smaller cities, Pinecrest, West Miami, and so forth, were using county. We're using actually the county. We elected to do it ourselves. I think we were probably the first ones to actually get mulch at your Pompano site by about 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, you were certainly coming on a date anyway.
And so I believe Pinecrest, we're telling the residents, I think more of an extended period than, much more time than we took, because the county, I mean, county has tremendous tremendous number of areas to deal with. And actually, we're still looking at traffic signs being replaced. I don't remember how many traffic signs they had. Alice Bravo told me about it. I remember how many 100,000 traffic signs were down there. So I'd rather not rely on Dade County. I'd rather do it ourselves and give our residents the best service possible.
So that's part of our strategy then, is to remain self-sufficient.
Correct.
A lot of the smaller cities, also the newer ones, rely on county for all of their garbage service. Anyone that was incorporated after 95 or 96, they retain the service from Miami-Dade County. So Palmetto Bay, Cutler Bay, Pinecrest, Sunny Isles, Doral, all of these cities, they're essentially just the same as the county when it comes to waste collection and recycling services. It's all under the same umbrella. So they're a little different. South Miami does not fall under that. They have their own crews and things like that. But those other newer cities, they're all essentially part of the county for that purpose anyway.
So then I wonder, were they able to put their mulch in the county?
I believe most of those probably had the county doing it. County's provider, I don't know that for a fact, but they probably relied on the county, at least initially. I know some of them, in order to expedite it, brought in some of their own crews. I live in Palmetto Bay, and I happened to see a big pile at Coral Reef Park at one point, a big pile of mulch, which the residents were not real crazy about, by the way.
And they had West Miami had some of the parks being used, and so they were not really receptive of our debris being in their parks.
Yeah.
So that was not. We looked at everything because from a logistics point of view, I wanted to be as redundant as possible.
Yeah, if there were a big industrial parcel that was not used by anyone that was close to the city, that's a lot of ifs. That would be ideal, but that's a hard animal to find. Yeah,
agreed.
And from an operational point of view, you can work there. You can work there 24/7. If you have residences next door, I guarantee you, if you work can you work at midnight? Very difficult. So our residential work, we stop at 7. Our 72nd Avenue site stops at 7 because of the an agreement we have with the residences that are just west of the canal. Our property ends on a drainage on one of the canal systems that it's used by Water Management District. The other side's residential. So part of doing that facility there was operational hours. Now the fact that we were 2 blocks away in the completely industrial area gave us operational carte blanche there. So that was very useful. So you're absolutely right. You need those industrial areas are ideal for this.
And the 24-hour working ability is huge because in the event of a huge storm, the disposal facilities can remain open 24/7. So then you can run your trucks, providing you have crews, you can run them overnight when there's far less traffic. Because what happens is there's lines at the landfill facilities. Everyone's bringing the debris at the same time. So when you can spread that out over 24 hours instead of 8, 10, or 12, it's a huge savings. So
and you're chipping 24 hours.
Yeah,
you're actually chipping 24 hours. We had our trucks stored and loaded, ready to leave at 5 in the morning to your facility. You were there as soon as you opened.
Yep.
And get more throughput. So we operationally we did as much as we could.
Yeah.
But those sites are great because you don't have the residential issue to deal with, you know, and so not only from a time perspective, but it's an industrial area. So no kids, no schools, you know, you're strictly looking at industrial type operation.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that was the last of the actual topics that we had on the specific discussion. So my next question is to you. What would you like to see for the next meeting and kind of the process that you would like to put in place? I know Mr. Norman had expressed previously that during the next few sessions that he would like for you guys to start making some recommendations, putting some things down, and brainstorming on what you intend to present to the commissioners with regard to your recommendation on your assessments of everything. So keeping that in mind, do you feel that you've had enough information from staff and the city to move forward to that process?
Yeah, from my perspective, I've got a wealth of information, and I think it's time to start drafting up some bullet points that we can build a report around. So that's why I was asking for a potential working session. So instead of kind of a discussion like this and just getting presentations, we have an opportunity to start brainstorming out some recommendations.
Yeah, I think a framework by functional areas within this whole realm and attack them. And the things that we can attack, certain things will remain off limits, due to litigation and other reasons, but we can certainly attack some of those other functional areas and come up with our recommendations. Yeah, so maybe for the next meeting? Yeah.
I would love that. I don't know if we can secure the conference room over at is it the Annex? Secure the conference room there so that we can have that kind of working
I will book the
session.
427 where we had our initial meeting,
Yeah.
which is more of an intimate setting in a conference room. So if we could do that and maybe have some storyboard boards or something
Yeah,
for
if
you
we
to
have
work
a
out that you asked
whiteboard
for.
or an easel, something to just start
Okay.
brainstorming out some stuff. And we have to discuss what is the form of this work product we're generating, right? Are we, is this a memo back to the commission? Is it a full-blown report? What is the form that we're going to put our recommendations in?
Okay, so if that's the consensus, then I will book that particular space for us for our next meeting, so you can start going through that process that you just described. Specifically, the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for July the 11th. So while I have you here, the three of you, could you check your schedules now? You're not good for that. You already know. Potentially, when would you be back for a meeting in July? Because I would like to really try to have the entire committee.
After the 18th.
After the 18th? Okay. What is, Mr. Neal and Mr. Norman?
Yeah, I'm
What
checking
does
right
that
now.
look like for you?
I have to check with my higher authority at home. Right now, my calendar is good for after the 18th as
Okay.
well.
Yeah, that 18th looks good to me right now.
Okay, okay. So I will look to see when the conference room is available. After the 18th, yes,
okay.
after the 18th. I will look to see if that conference room is available for after the 18th and try to come up with a consensus of when everyone is available for the committee so that I can have a full committee and start the process that you just described so that you can go through brainstorming and making a recommendation to the commissioners.
If we wanted to keep it on the same day and the same
Yes,
time, it would be the 25th,
Okay, the
potentially.
25th? Okay.
That's-
Yes, because I would like to keep it on Wednesdays if
Yeah.
possible, and 9 o'clock appears when people are available to be a good time. So tentatively, the 25th at 9 a.m.?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I'd like to thank the board. Thank you so much. We appreciate your input and your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if we have no other topics, then I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.